Hi, this is Rob. For today's episode, I'm doing something a little bit different. I am going to be making some badges. I have an order for 2 police badges for some retiring officers. And part of the carving of this badge, I use a V30 V-bit. And by chance, the previous week, I ordered a 1/4-inch downcut Jenny from Cody at Cadence Manufacturing. And I've known Cody for a while. We talked face-to-face. In fact, I dropped by his house to pick up an order when I first met him. And on this order, he sent me a 30-degree V downcut bit, which is a prototype he's been working on. This is the final version, but it hasn't been heat treated, so it won't have the hardness of the final version bit. But for cutting, at least to start with, it should be exactly like the one in the final version will be. So anyway, since I'm doing these 2 badges that require a 30-degree bit, I thought it'd be a great test. And I've done these badges multiple times. I've used the cheap little 1/8-inch diameter V-bits, single flute, and they work fine. But the intricate work with a V30, there's a little bit of chipping, and that's even on maple, which is really good for not chipping in my experience. So I ended up having 2 projects that required 30-degree V-bits, and I have 2 V-bits, and I'm curious how they compare, so I figured this is a perfect time for a test. Quick spoiler alert here. If you think a $3 bit is going to compare favorably to a top-end V-bit like this, you're not being very realistic. It's going to crush it, and we all know that. But there are a few instances where the $3 bit is not bad. So let's talk about the project real quick. I've glued up some maple boards, 24 inches tall and 18 wide, and I surfaced it. By the way, I used the 1-inch surfacing bit from Garrett at IDC Woodcraft. Very nice bit again. I will be using that probably in some future videos, but that's all I need to say right now. It's very important when surfacing that when you're using a V-carve bit or etching like I will be, that the whole surface is perfectly flat. If you have an uneven surface, you'll be unhappy with the results. It needs to be perfectly flat when you're V-carving or etching like I will be doing. I'll be using my wood putty technique to get nice sharp lines with the paint. If you're interested, look back in my videos for the one called My Alternative to Oramask. That's a much deeper dive. I'm not going to talk very much about it right here. At this point, I've already covered the entire project with a very thin layer of wood putty. Then I skimmed off the area that will have a black background, painted that black, and I've also done the tool path with the 1/8-inch end mill for excess clearing of the V-carve areas. Now it's finally time to see the downcut 30-degree V-bit in action. Things I noticed here. There's not as much dust or chips leaving the area, which makes sense. It's forcing that back down into the pocket. That's how downcut works. If you've used regular end mills, downcut and upcut, the downcut leaves a cleaner surface on the top edge. If you cut through, it'll leave a worse edge on the bottom when you cut through. And an upcut is exact opposite. It'll leave a worse finish on the top side and a better finish on the bottom side. Well, since we're not cutting all the way through, this downcut makes a lot of sense. It really does leave a cleaner finish on that top edge. And now we'll go to 10 times normal speed so we don't spend too much time just watching the machine. In the past, when I used the cheaper $3 30-degree V-bits, I would have a little bit of chipping, especially on the edges of letters, the serifs, I think you call them. Just little tips of pointy things could come off. And it wasn't that big a deal. When I painted, I could be very careful around that, and it would look pretty darn good to the naked eye. The issue is, this one does such a good job. I had no chipping at all. Now, it is a brand new bit, but of course the 30-degree bit, the cheap ones, that was a brand new bit too, so that was fair comparison there. It is amazing how good the finish was on this. And I decided I would not feel good doing the second badge with the cheaper 30-degree bit because it would not look as good, and I should do as good a job as I can for the customer. So I ended up using the same 30-degree Downtown Jenny 30-degree V-bit for both the badges. Quick side note here. I purchased the 60-degree GrooVee Jenny down shear V-bit a while back, and all the large text you'll see on this badge is done with that bit. I really like these things. The whole concept of the down shear V-bit, I'm sold. It gives such a clean finish. I know the Oramask crowd really loves these down shear bits because it keeps the Oramask in place and doesn't rip it off. And that's great for them, but I'm not an ore mask user. I just like traditional V carving, and this works great for that too. Here's a quick shot of that after the V carving. No touch up here at all, just blew it out with the air blower and swept it off with the broom. That's how good the finish is in the end. And the next step of the process is do a sloppy paint job over the whole V-carved area. The nice thing about my wood putty technique is I can do a sloppy paint job and I will still get sharp edges on that paint job in the end. Now for the final step of my wood putty painting technique is to sand off all the wood putty. This is regular speed, not sped up. This is how fast it really works, and you can see how clean a finish you get. Nice sharp edges. It is important to note that I am using dust collection onto the end of that sander. If you don't have dust collection, there will be a lot of dust, and that dust actually gets forced into the nooks and crannies. So having dust collection is an important step in this. On another side note for this wood putty technique, I know of a guy who works with a lot of intricate shapes on woods that are more brittle than maple. Oak comes to mind for me. It tends to chip a lot. So he uses this technique and he gets a lot less chipping out on his intricate carving. And he's not even painting, so he really likes this technique for that reason. And now for beauty shots of the piece after the sanding. Note how the smaller text with a black background looks really good. That's the 30-degree down shear. And the larger text is with the 60-degree down shear. For the areas that do not have a black background, that's either, I would call, etching or engraving, which is not a V-carve toolpath. I'm just carving on the vector with this one. And I did that both with the 30-degree down shear and the cheap 30-degree bits, and the 30-degree bits do okay for that. The 30-degree down shear bit probably does give a little bit cleaner finish on this, but it also forces the dust and chips into that little V groove, so it's a little harder to clean out than the other one. Whereas the normal 30-degree V-bit, it's a little bit rougher edge, but if I run the toolpath twice, which of course takes twice as long, it's easier to clean up, so less manual cleanup in the end. For my final thoughts on this, for basic stuff like scoring, etching, the 30-degree traditional cheap V-bit is not bad. There's a place for this, but once you start doing anything intricate, V-carving, or epoxy V-carving, shapes and things like that, or woods that are more brittle, that 30-degree down shear is hard to beat. I will use it always for stuff like that. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot. And if you made it to the end, also please consider liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Thanks everyone. You have a great day.